So in an ever-growing necessity to find purpose in everything that I do, and also in this space, I have turned to the internet to do some research on gaming and just a bunch of different things. I was doing research specifically on the effects of gaming on society and comparing it to the effects of social media on society. And I was faced with a very, very bleak and somewhat terrifying set of statistics. Let me start with the ones that scared me as a father. Since 2007, we have seen over 50% increase in teen suicide. That's something that's crazy. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I am no psychologist. Not accredited in any of these. So what I'm talking about and some of the suggestions I make are purely based on how my life turned out and how I think that there is some practical applications here. But as a parent of young children, specifically of a girl as well as a boy, I look to that time of my life and I think, whew, man, it was brutal in a lot of ways. Very, very lonely at times, but there were a few elements of it that I found to be very uplifting. But there was one thing that did not exist at all when I was a kid, and that was the social media we have today. There was a very, very simple version of social media, and for those of you who are too young to know, there was something called MySpace. Now, MySpace as a whole was never really an issue. I mean, sure, there was the popularity contest, something called the Top 8, if you don't know what that is. Basically, you had a list of people that you had up at the front, your top 8, your top 16, and you could do some very, very minor coding to get different overlays and stuff like that. It was cool. It was a cool little thing, but there wasn't the social media we have today. The social media we have today is quite insane. In fact, I did some more research to see how often does someone check their phone. 144 times a day based on the statistics I was looking at. And of that 144 times a day that someone checks their phone, how much time do they spend on their phone? Almost 4 hours. It looks like an average 3 hours and 40 minutes of time on their phone. And of that 3 hours and 40 minutes of time, how much of it is making phone calls? Less than 30 minutes. How crazy is that? The average, less than 30 minutes of your time is spent on your phone using it as a phone. Now, you may be texting or using apps, but it is more using apps than texting. That is wild. And when pairing those two things together, I start to draw some correlations. There's no doubt that the introduction of social media as a whole has played a pretty severe role in people's lives. Now, this isn't a talk demonizing, well, actually it kind of is, if I'm being honest. This is a talk demonizing social media, even though it's a thing that I use on a regular basis for this, sort of. But I recently did a challenge. That challenge was ditching social media completely. 30 days worth of no social media accessible on my phone. I even deleted the YouTube app. And instead, I replaced it with gaming. I said every time that I want to go and pick up my phone, I'm going to pick up my Nintendo Switch, or if I'm going to sit in my office and scroll through whatever, instead I'm going to boot up, my PlayStation, Xbox and play that, or fool around on the Steam Deck, which I didn't do as much of as I thought I was going to. A couple things happened. One, I actually was more productive. Surprise, surprise. I was able to get more done. But two, I played more games. I really did. The unintentional byproduct of this was the mental clarity that existed in that space. The lack of inadequacy in some ways. And I'm in my mid-30s, a father of 2 children. I get to play video games for a living, and I would say that as far as life's concerned, I'm pretty successful. I've started a family, and my family is very healthy. I would consider that to be very successful. In fact, my only measure of success is having a family. That's really all I cared about growing up, and now my next measure of success is how well can I provide for my family for the longest amount of time. That's the next thing, right? But I took a lot of this information and I looked back. I said, okay, let's draw these parallels. And I saw that since the introduction in 2010, right, that time period of social media as we have it now, it's of course gotten more and more sophisticated and in some ways manipulative. We have seen a change in culture, a dramatic increase in some mental issues and different stuff like that. But most of all, we have seen a loneliness that has never been seen before. A sense of inadequacy and not belonging because of the continuous bombardment of, well, what we know, as some of us at least, of this fake persona, right? Part of the reason why I've changed up my whole shindig was because I felt like I was feeding into that in some ways, reviewing and hey, whoa, this is really who I am. I drink a cup of coffee, I talk about video games, and I think about stuff that is sometimes really, really heavy. And when I looked it up and I saw this increase, I'm like, what can I do to help prevent some of those kinds of pressures that are unnecessary? Not sheltering, right? But how can I do that as a parent? But also, how can I take some of those ideas and help myself? And gosh darn it, video games. I said in a previous video that give a kid a Game Boy and get them off Instagram, right? That was the thing I said, give a kid a Game Boy, take them off Instagram, give a whatever. And I have been thinking about that specific sentiment almost every day since I said it. Like, give a kid a Game Boy, get them off Instagram, right? And it's not Instagram, it's the idea. There's nothing inherently, I can't say that. I'm not taking shots at Instagram. Instagram is actually the only social media platform that I choose to produce content on. If it's something you're interested in, what I do is I produce short form cinematic, at least now. I was doing chopped up versions of this stuff, but now what I'm doing is kind of creative, short form cinematic, Nintendo centric B-roll footage over some like music. That's pretty much all it is. There's no, hey, look at me kind of stuff. I've used it that way before and it yielded nothing, and I also think it's ridiculous. But give a kid a Game Boy and get them off social media or whatever it may be. I know that myself, my wife, and I have talked at length about how we won't allow our children to use social media, and I'm seeing an increase in that as time goes on. But as I look back at my life as a kid, as someone in middle school and high school, there was a theme that existed. There was a group of friends that I spent time with. There was this sense of belonging that existed in video games. We played video games together. And I'm not saying that community is only in the video game world, because that certainly is not true. There are plenty of people that do stuff in other areas. Communities are important, right? They're the most important. We are built as communal beings. There are a lot of theological things that come out of that statement. If you ever want to talk about that, Discord is the place to talk about it. But sticking to the term, we are built as communal beings. We're supposed to be in communion or community with each other. It's how we were designed. And so I think that that's number one, the most important thing. But the practical things and the practical steps that some of us can take to potentially reduce and create a sense of adequacy, some simple steps. One is, I can't believe that I'm saying this, because growing up, it was the exact opposite. I believe that we would do a lot better if we spent less time doing this and a little bit more time doing this. I just sat my kid down to watch something on TV for a few minutes as I recorded this, and I even saw elements of this very thing in my daughter. She's 3. She goes, "Dad, I want to watch something." I said, "Of course. Let me get you, some water, because you just woke up, and water is the number one most important thing to consume upon rising from rest." Remember that. Always stay hydrated, especially if you drink as much coffee as I do. Let's get you some water. What do you want to watch? I don't know. And we started to scroll through the only streaming service I have, because I accidentally paid for a year. Disney Plus. No, I don't want to watch that. 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 She already has decision fatigue. There is so much for her to watch. It's crazy, dude. She's 3 years old. That's brutal. Not only that, the shows that she wants to watch, this part hurts me, are all 1 to 3 minutes long. 1 to 3 minutes long, dude. No. 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 You kidding me? No. Hold on 1 second, Sweet Pea. Let me finish this video, okay? I'm almost done. No. I am not editing this. I'm keeping everything here. And there's no music, and there's nothing more than me just sipping a cup of coffee because this speaks to my soul. Trying not to get emotional. I have kids. I see the world we live in. Because we live in a world where everything is shown to us all the time. All the time. The average American spends over 7 hours in front of a screen. Yeah, I know. Go outside, touch grass, all that kind of stuff. Sure, whatever. I'm not even going to speak into that. Of course, everyone should go outside more and more and more. But some people just don't feel comfortable changing their life from sitting and doing stuff. So we need to take some practical steps. And some people play video games and they feel completely demonized because of this. And I think that that's heartbreaking. Because just like I worked in the health industry for a decade. And I would still consider myself in the health industry because I'm always going to be, a CrossFit coach to a certain extent. Just like staying healthy is something that is so important. And some of, eating right and sticking to just very, very fruits, vegetables, meats, and that's it, right? Just eating well and exercising is the best thing you can do for yourself. No fad diets, no pills, none of that stuff can just dramatically increase your quality of life. I strongly believe that some of the most practical things that you can do in your life to feel better are as simple as playing video games. I know that sounds crazy to me. Let me unpack it fully. I need to take a sip of coffee. I, as a kid, was able to sit down and play games like Fire Emblem, which I'm replaying, by the way. It's very, very good. A story-based, narrative-based, strategic RPG where you have to make decisions like chess pieces and then proceed to read a novel's worth of text back and forth with just characters on the screen. There were no animations. Okay? I played that when I was 15 years old, 14 years old. I loved that game. I still love that game. Pokemon, similarly, right? Making decisions. I was an RPG guy, okay? I wasn't into first-person shooters and all that kind of stuff. I played Mario games. I played Zelda. These story-based, narrative-based things, interactive stories with puzzles and different kind of mind challenges, stuff like that, were things that were so huge to me, and I sat down and I would play them for multiple hours on end when I had that time. Now, of course, I had responsibilities I had to take care of, which I didn't do the best of because I did not like school. So I didn't get good grades because I just didn't apply myself. I could apply myself. When I ended up going to seminary, I had a 4.0, but in grade school, I had a hard time. Back to the story. I was able to sit down and play video games. I was able to do that. I wasn't trying to compare myself to X, Y, and Z because I wasn't paying attention to X, Y, and Z. I was happy in my world with my friends playing video games. There was no comparison. I didn't have to look like, be like, act like so-and-so. I had what I needed. There was an engagement with some of these stories. And I know that this exists across reading books and all that kind of stuff, but I'm simply just stating that there's nothing wrong with liking this. And as an adult, this is very important. I challenge you, I challenge all of you, to spend 30 days off of your phone and replace it with some game time. I bring out the RG35XX Plus because the size. Okay, this I keep in my backpack now, not in my pocket, but that is because I have an Apple Watch and I'm able to do all of the functions of communication through this. Part of the reason why I have this was so that I wouldn't have to have my hands on this because this is a wildly addicting machine, okay? And I have this. in my pocket, fully charged. If you want to know more about this, the review's at the end. There are some elements of this that are unfortunate when it comes to the charging, but whatever. This is fully charged. To start my day with this in my pocket, always with me, because when I have that urge to just sit and scroll through Instagram, instead I grab this and I play through one of the 3 games that I'm playing through on that right now. Pokemon Emerald, Jedi Power Battles, or play around in Tekken 3. That is it. That is how I utilize this. This right here is saving my brain. Video games are saving my brain because I am not someone who is going to have the lifestyle shift right now of saying, okay, instead of grabbing my phone, I'm going to grab a book and start reading for the first time ever in my life. I already enjoy this. Let's start with the lowest hanging fruit. Replace one bad habit with something that is moderately better, right? I say that because, of course, the best thing you can do ever in life is to stay 100% productive, but I had a video about that, about maybe grinding all the time is going to destroy you, and having a hobby such as video games is good for you, which I still strongly believe. I think that as we raise our children, I'm not going to give advice here. Let me rephrase this. I think as I raise my child, I cannot wait till she is at the point where she, one, because right now we still read lots of stories together, sits down and reads a book on her own, or 2, decides instead of watching TV, she's going to pick up a video game and play the video game. I would much rather my child decide that she wants to play through Super Mario Wonder or, Yoshi's Crafted World or Tears of the Kingdom. I would much rather my child, heck, even play something like Fortnite or Call of Duty. I would much rather my child develop skills in those fields: problem solving, strategic management of a map, understanding the different elements of that. I would much rather her do that than watch television or scroll on Instagram, TikTok. Oh gosh, TikTok's the worst. Or any of these social media platforms. I want my child to, we've seen those videos before, right? Ironically, probably on Instagram or TikTok. Before social media, you see them with a camcorder and it's them running through a high school and you can see the different kids smiling and laughing and making silly faces, and now kids are just kind of like zombies looking at their phones. Dudes, it's real. Like this is real. It is very, very much so real. And so I understand that I work in a space where social media is huge, but I have intentionally, to the detriment of my own growth, I understand that I could grow if I use some of those platforms, but I just believe strongly and passionately that those platforms are very damaging. And the good that I could gain personally from utilizing those platforms for reach is kind of further perpetuating something, and I'd rather just stay in a space where long-form conversation, intimate moments are the priority, because that is how we save each other. This is how we save each other. I just read something that says, why don't you do something that only you can talk about? And I feel like as this has progressed, I feel like there are not a lot of people in the gaming space that can talk about coffee the way I can talk about, and I feel like there are not a lot of dads in the gaming space that can talk from the heart about how this is such a beautiful thing that we can share with our children and have our children do. And so as I grow in this space and I understand where I am, I feel like more and more these are the conversations I like to have about how can we utilize this? How can we play more? Because honestly, playing is what is going to save. This saves, dude. Play. Like, this is so much more and more. This is so important. This motto, this moniker, this brand. This is my brand, dude. Check it out. Play HG, dude. The little HG down there. I don't know if you know that period's not a period. It's happy gaming. Play. We need to do more of that. We need to share this with our children. We need to share this with our friends. We need to share this with each other. And we need to ditch this and pick up this. You don't need to pick up actually this, but if you do want to pick up actually this, I do have an affiliate link down at the bottom. This isn't a plug for this. I'm realizing though that this has become more important to me than I thought it would. This is a healing thing, right? Because again, I can, instead of going, and then honestly, because of the way algorithms work, they feed into exactly what you want. And so you're there forever. I pick up this and I progress. I accomplish something. That's the biggest thing. When you get through a campaign, when you have a percentage increase in your completion, you are progressing. You are doing something. Outsiders look in and go, oh, you're just doing nothing. But I would argue that getting from 10% to 20% in Donkey Kong Country is far more valuable than getting 15 reels and sharing them with your friends, which is something that I'm guilty of. I honestly believe that progression is so much better than arguably regression. We are regressing to a state of incompleteness. And this is a good way to break that. And once you've broken that habit, then we can address other things, which I'm not going to talk about here because we talk about coffee in gaming. This one was close to my heart. It hit me hard, and I wanted to share this with you guys today. So, a little bit of a downer, but I think we have some upper. Right? We just got to play more video games. Join the Discord if you want to meet other like-minded individuals. Enjoy your cup of coffee today. Make sure to play some video games. But most of all, happy gaming.